太厉害，要挣脱时代的镣铐。不用谁知道，不管他们嘲笑，向自由大胆停靠。修一座城堡，出着圆和帽，去在时代的喧嚣。响起的号角，他们都不知道是我们的暗号。爬什么山，爬的微不散，你我皆是不一般。带走山花灿烂，开遍山峦，不再会有遗憾。攀的什么山，攀的微不散，无人高处不胜寒。待到烟雾消散，星火灿烂，自由总会靠岸。的喧嚣，响起的号角，他们都不知道是我们的暗号。爬的什么山，爬的微不散，你我皆是不一般。待到山花灿烂，开遍山峦，不再会有遗憾。攀的什么山，攀的微不散，无人高处不胜寒。待到烟雾消散，星火灿烂，自由总会靠岸。爬的什么山，爬的微不散，你我皆是不一般。待到山花灿烂，开遍山峦，不再会有遗憾。攀的什么山，攀的微不散，无人高处不胜寒。待到烟雾消散，星火灿烂，自由总会靠岸。
All right, so that was Inscription 671,075. That was one of the first full songs that I found that was showing up on a search that I did of the blockchain. So it's interesting to see that stuff is there. This is quite early on from when it was much more affordable to get stuff on chain. Back in the days when it might have only cost, well, I don't know, tens of dollars maybe to get a full 3.5 megabyte song on chain. Although actually you can hear from that it is actually been downgraded, like this, a lower bit rate or something. So it's, you can sort of hear how it's affected the sound, but nonetheless, still pretty cool to have a full song on chain. So yeah, that was one that I found. I was doing some searches today to see what else I could find on chain. There's actually a lot of audio for games, which I found. There's a good search function on the Hero Explorer that allows you to search for audio, and actually 99% of it seemed to be from the same game. I can't remember the name of it now, but it was interesting to see so much there. But obviously it's not been inscribed in a way. Obviously for that game can know where all of its samples are and everything, but actually for people to find them themselves, it wouldn't be so easy, which is why I went down the route that I went down with Audionals to inscribe them in JSON files, so they're much more easily indexable. But so yeah, welcome back to the second episode of On-Chained Melody. It's been a bit of a technical learning curve for me, learning how to sort of use OBS, and luckily I've had lots of guests that are more technically adept with things like OBS and Restream than I am, so they've been helping me again for the last half hour getting this set up. But can you guys all hear me now? Are you all there and plugged in?
Can certainly hear you. Brilliant.
Good. I can hear you as well. Awesome. So I've got some cool things to talk about this week. We've got some great guests. Let me just make sure I haven't left anybody. Oh, there we go. Got to get
Can you guys hear me?
There we go. You're in the room. You're in the room. Sorry, I was just doing
my camera's shot again, but
not to worry. I probably should employ the special backgrounds or something, because I'm just sat here in my man cave surrounded by all my junk. Still haven't learned how to use the filters.
I'm stuck in the man cave, sir.
Some exciting stuff's been going on this week. I've got the first player is kind of working. I'll give you guys a look at that if I can find the right page here. So the first player that I've sort of got together. This is the sort of demo version of the player. I might need to. Do I need to do this? There we go. So that's showing up there. So that's the first version of the player. It's a kind of lots of different recursions going on here. There's like this specific player I've built was to be a limited collection of 111, which I'm hoping to sell to raise some funds to continue the work and research for Audionals to continue to build it out. And then we've got, very excitingly, the first additional single, which is coming up, which is from Color, who's here with us. This is the first player version for Color. We haven't actually inscribed it yet, but this is what it's going to look like, and it's going to be playing Color's song. I don't know how many versions Color's intending to release, but that will all come out soon. It'll be quite exciting. I've been talking to one of the marketplaces today about getting these available to be inscribed as collections. So there's been a lot going on with all of this, and I've just gone to the wrong one there. There we go. So there's been a lot going on with getting those players ready and figuring out how to sort of be able to pull in different people's artwork. Ultimately, I want to make the player as customizable as possible. It's all linked up to the sequencer, so anything that people write on it, they're actually able to animate multiple areas, or at least have multiple parts of the player be triggered by actual sounds in the songs. So I've had ideas a bit like at the moment when you play the player, the eyes where the play and stop buttons are, they move in time with just some basic counts in the player. But later on, I'd like to see things like the headphones be able to move when a particular instrument plays, when the bass plays or something. There's kind of no limit, but it's just at the moment working out how to modularize the whole thing so it's as simple as possible for users to come in, create a song, and then create their own custom player which behaves the way they want it to work, and then inscribe the player. And the player itself now is only 700 bytes, which is very small. That it costs about $1 when the fees are down. Even when the fees are up, I think the most I've paid is slightly over $2. And that, obviously, at the moment we're talking about singles, but that player size will change very marginally, even if it was doing an entire album or an anthology, a playlist, whatever you like. You can now package that up into the Audional player and then distribute it without any extra cost. So if you're doing it as an album, like a $1 production cost per album with artwork, potentially music videos, all that sort of stuff, is pretty exciting, because that's really competing with real world distribution costs. So I'm very excited about that. Color, do you want to jump in and just tell us a little bit about what you've been up to and what your plans are for your first Bitcoin single?
Yeah, sure. Great. Nice to be here. Hello, everybody. Just one technical thing. I see there's some people posting in the message stream. I can't reply. Maybe you can do that in the meantime, Jim.
The message stream. I don't even know where to find the message stream.
Well, it's on the right side of my image.
Okay.
Screen.
Let me get in there, see if I can find it.
And
you crack on.
Guy Wright Jr. is sending us a couple of messages. So if you could apply, and I don't see how to do that. But this is probably only for the listeners, for the audience. Yeah, about the music. Yeah, it's really exciting. The whole mix is finished. It's called Audionals Pump, and it's inscribed already, and the cover is inscribed. So now we're gonna merge all of that in the player Jim was just describing, and yeah, then we're gonna launch it. Pretty hype. We've been playing a couple of pieces from the song in different YouTube missions that we did, but never completely. So maybe we're going to do that today. Play the song for the first time as a whole. Yeah, and then there's all the other guys, musicians who are in the team and who are all excited and making music with the samples that we put online, and yeah, it's amazing. Everybody's really enthusiastic, and this is really one step forward to music where you can really have direct contact with the producer, the musician, and the collector without any middleman, and that's how it should be. So the future of music, man.
It's really profound, isn't it? The idea of musicians being able to operate in this way. I think one of the things that we need to overcome with the platform, and I've been speaking to a few of these guys about this today, is this kind of the cost of getting stuff onto the blockchain is still fairly prohibitive, in so much as I've made sure that the costs for action on the Audionals side for inscribing, I've tried to make $1. That was my plan, was to charge $1 per inscription. But then when someone then has to go and spend $20 to inscribe just a kick drum, and then another $10 to inscribe a hi-hat, and then maybe $50 to inscribe something longer, like that the Neil Armstrong sample that I put on there, that cost like $70 or more, I think, to put on there. So it's very expensive for people to kind of be experimenting with. But the real beauty is once you have a song, you then have it sewn up in so many ways. You can distribute it via Bitcoin wallets, which is a very cool in itself. But secondly, the way that these songs are formed, the way that Audionals are inscribed, is with a host of metadata, which includes licensing information. It's very transparent. Whatever you're going to inscribe, you inscribe with all the information that you intend for it to be used with in perpetuity. No one can change this; it's immutable, and it means that there's just such a lot of power and sovereignty to be gained for the creator in that environment. Even if people decide to pirate, if someone decides to take a sample that they don't own and inscribe it, it's very easy for the owner of that sample to then say, this is not the correct sample, I'm the owner of this sample, I've now inscribed the correct sample, and now you know where to find it. So it just makes things, it's such a level of transparency that it's very, very hard for anyone to, well, it's impossible for anyone to completely hide, or be dishonest about what they're doing, because it's all on chain, it's all open. So if anyone finds that they're being that people are using a sample that's not theirs, they can come out and say it, and then they can release the proper sample, and then everyone knows that's where you find the sample. This is the sample that has the correct licensing. So if I want to use it, because then further down the line, labels, radio stations, they can then blacklist with a press of a button anyone who is using the illegal sample, enforcing down the line, enforcing the rights of the original creator, to make sure that only songs using the original creator's sample are actually going to be earning royalties or even be able to be played. So there's a lot to be gained there, but of course we have to get over this cost hump. And so something I've been considering for a little while is about creating a soft version of the sequencer. Initially, it was going to be a very centralized version of the sequencer that you could use on your own computer, import whatever samples you want into the sequencer, and then, figure out a really good arrangement. And then once you're happy, once you've kind of got that arrangement and you're like, this is smashing it, I'm ready to get this into people's Bitcoin wallets, at that point, there would be a button for you to kind of do several inscriptions where it would inscribe all of the samples that you're using. So at the moment it's an 8-channel sequencer, so it would inscribe each of those 8 audio samples onto the Bitcoin blockchain, and then also inscribe the arrangement that you'd made. And so it will just allow people, I think, to experiment a lot more. But again, in the centralized version, there's no sharing, there's not a lot of collaboration. The real beauty of doing this stuff on Bitcoin means that if I come up with an arrangement using Bitcoin inscriptions, and then I want Color to kind of, put his stamp on it, all I got to do is send him a tiny little JSON file. It's like a 2 kilobyte file that I send to him, and then he just opens that in the Audional sequencer, and there's the song. Because the JSON file itself has all those instructions. Which samples am I using? When am I playing them? So I can share it with anyone in the world, and all they have to do is have access to the blockchain via Audionals or any other provider that is allowing the recursive access via the transaction output IDs. And so that it makes things so simple. And I've also been building additional effects units and synthesizers, which I think is going to be really interesting. Once we've got synths, I've got a great synth that's down to, again, it's like 2 or 3 kilobytes. So then that'll allow people to start creating melodies. I haven't quite figured out some of the finer details about recording those movements, but it's very, very similar to MIDI, what people have seen with MIDI before. So that's going to be really exciting, because once people can do that in Audionals, that then again means that you're now no longer relying on audio samples of your own that you have to inscribe, because there's now a synthesizer that you can now play a melody on. So now it gets more about composition. You can play a melody on here, it's your melody, and now you can inscribe that melody. And if you were just inscribing a synth part, again, that would be well under 1 kilobyte. So you might be able to write something fantastic, synth parts, and then inscribe those or group them together into a song. But anyway, going back to the idea of the soft sequencer, what I've kind of come around to lately was the idea of creating something using a layer 2, which allows us to take advantage of the decentralization, but allows us to just get rid of the majority, like a good 95% of that cost to the user for getting their samples into the system. So I'm looking at creating a stacks contract that will then allow us to have an open contract for minting, which is the traditional sense of that's what you're doing on stacks, is minting using IPFS, same style of audio. So the idea would be that you are still getting the audio as small as possible, because you don't want to have to go back to the beginning again when you decide, okay, this is it, I want to put this on Bitcoin. Oh, but now my samples are too big or too long. It's like, we want to start the process on that layer 2, but without all the costs of inscribing onto Bitcoin, but with all the benefits of a decentralized network via a smart contract, meaning that, yes, you can put all the samples that you kind of want in there at minimal cost, like me charging like the $1 again, but then it's just the $1. And then it's like you're now able to put those into a JSON file, which is now reading a different set of, Web 2 addresses. It's reading IPFS, but it's still inside that decentralized network where you can now send this to a friend anywhere in the world. And again, as long as they've just got access to the internet, they will be able to pull that song in. And so the cooperative, thing stays very much alive there, rather than it being fully centralized. So that's kind of now the new sort of next part of the roadmap, is to create what's effectively going to be an audio bridge between the layer 2 and the layer 1, allowing lots of experimentation and collaboration to go on layer 2 for a very low cost. And then when someone is ready to put out that single, that album, they can then take the bare minimum of those samples, inscribe those onto the Bitcoin blockchain along with their arrangements, and now they're ready to distribute on chain. And again, that there is still going to be that big cost, but now you've made your song, you've had a chance to get creative, you've collaborated, you haven't had to go through the cost first. You've now got the song that you're confident about that you can go out and distribute to get your costs back. It might cost you, depending on the length and quality of your samples, because you can use WAV samples. But again, if you're using hits and the synthesizers, your cost might be $200 or $300 to get those samples inscribed. But now you've got the song is in a player and is ready for distribution at a cost of around $1 per album. So that's kind of a bit of a roundup of kind of what's been going on in my head over the last couple of weeks to kind of make things a bit easier and a bit more exciting and a bit less costly to start the journey. Still got exactly the same destination, but I think we'll get a lot more creativity and a lot more people having fun just by kind of making it cheaper. But again, making it cheaper and using a decentralized network, being a layer 2, to keep very much in line with what the ultimate aim is, which is to get your music full production on Bitcoin at a fraction of the cost that it would cost if you were to just produce it in a standard DAW, make a recording and then chop that into pieces and put it on chain. That's going to be ridiculously expensive. I think I'm wondering if that Dash might be joining us. Should be great. Let's have a look there. No, he's not joined in yet. So that's been some of the stuff that's been going on in the background that I'm very excited about. It's going to take a little bit of development. This is partly why I'm trying to get this get these players together. These players that we've been working on for a while. It would be great to get these out, and also the I Love Cheese as well, which like I said, there's going to be 111 copies of this one. I don't know exactly how I'm going to get it out there yet. Possibly just through Discord. I was thinking of just sort of seeing who wants to bid for the first copy, and then kind of take it from there. But it would be amazing to be able to just raise some money so that I can really get my head down and get this soft sequencer, this layer 2 sequencer set up, because I really think that will lead to a much more of an explosion of creativity than the current quite expensive setup. But as we spoke earlier, Cully, what we also need is to just get some artists on board, or even some libraries, libraries that deal with samples, and get them to get those samples certainly either straight to Bitcoin or into the layer 2. And then, as I was saying earlier, if we could get someone who can kind of invest that money into getting their stuff onto the layer 2, that we can then at that point, it could even be that it's just left up to the users, that they just, someone like Apple Loops or even, what was the one you were saying, Color?
GarageBand.
GarageBand. Those kind of library samples that are already open. They're not in any way locked up. They're already there for everyone who's using Logic. So it's very much already in the open, the public domain. So I don't think there's any of that argument about worrying about stuff being in the public domain for those guys. It's just as long as it's in the public domain with the correct licensing, which again with this method is rock solid. So they could actually put these things onto the layer 2, and then it could just be when a user decides they've got a song they want, and then we can have a checker built into the sequencer that will say, look, those 3 samples already exist on chain, but these other 5 that you're using don't. So if you want to cover that cost now, you can inscribe these 5 samples, and then know the other 3 are there, and then your song is now going to work, and then the publisher themselves have kind of offset that cost. through a user deciding to inscribe them. So yeah, lots of lots of ways forward. The most important thing for me is just to turn this into the playground that it's supposed to be, that people can really play with the sequencer and have fun, and that we can get lots of music out of it. I think something that people haven't necessarily appreciated, maybe I'll do a little demo before the end of the show, but is that you can load 8 samples into the sequencer, and you can actually take any saved scene that you've got. I'm just going to switch the sequencer here actually, just to show people. So you can take any scene and you can load it. So I've got a bunch of scenes here which I've saved. Some of them have the same samples that you'll see in the left hand channel, but others have different ones. And if I choose this intro, so let's just, if I have a listen to this and we hit play, again, you guys in the studio aren't going to hear this, but I'll start talking again when it's sort of finished. I'll let you know when it's finished. But point is that what we can do here is we can play, and you can load new scenes with new samples while you're playing live, and it doesn't skip a beat. And then what we need to then do is get this wrapped up into the JSON, so you could actually release a mix. You could release an hour's mix. If you came up with enough scenes, you could create an hour, 2 hours of solid back-to-back music of you mixing, and then put it out in a single $1 player. So that's pretty exciting. So I'll show you what I mean here just by playing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play, and then I'm going to go and load, and I'm going to load new scenes in while I'm playing, and you'll see what I mean. Sorry, I forgot to say that. I forgot to unmute my mic. I forgot to say then that I've got automatic mute set up on Audionals.com, which I forgot about as I was doing that. I've got to get a better setup for that. But the mutes switch on and off automatically, which was to sort of allow people to play the demo song that I've set in there without having to do too much. So I'll have to demo that again. But anyway, when you've got it work also with the restream thing, I think it was actually glitching there a bit. But what I'll try and do, maybe on the Discord, I will put all of those scenes that I've got somewhere on the Discord so you guys can play with it yourself. Because when you've got it just open in your own browser and you're not streaming loads of audio and video, it is seamless. It's you drop it between, it loads the new samples and it drops instantly. So if you've got a drum fill, for example, you can have 50 JSON files all lined up saying this is my drum fill, this is the breakdown, this is where the beat doubles, this is 4 to the floor, this is where we've got, whatever you've got, and then you can just flick through those in perpetuity. You can just continue to flick between all your different scenes. So the longer you spend building up scenes and then putting them in a folder, very soon someone will, I can't wait to hear someone has gone to an event and has played for an hour. It's just getting the scenes, and of course at the moment you're kind of limited on the number of samples. There's probably about 30 samples in there at the moment. There are more samples that have been made, but because there's no indexer, I don't know where they are. This doesn't work in a contract. It's on Bitcoin. The Audionals protocol is a protocol. So that it's not like people have to go through audionals.com to create these audio files. It's obviously a much easier way to do it, but if people are in the know and they understand how to write these things, they can still just create the samples their own. I've had a few conversations with people who I know were doing stuff, but they haven't sent me links for what they've done, which again is the kind of benefit for doing this to start with the layer 2, because I will have a single Audionals contract that everyone will inscribe their cheaper files into, but they'll all be in one place. So everything will all be very much easier to bring into the sampler. But at the moment, there's the majority of things are things that I've inscribed, and then Longstreet inscribed the Bitcoin step, which is a very exciting project, which we're still bringing together to put out with Counterfeit Culture. So we're just kind of pulling that together, but he's written it's quite a long piece. It's brilliant. And so I'm really looking forward to that. But you can play with those. I mean, that's one of the things. There's all these melodies that Longstreet, all the Bitcoin step stuff, they're all these melodies. And I haven't seen kind of people really chopping those up and playing around with them. So I'm interested to see more people pulling those in. You can get, if you just hit the drop down load menu and you click on a channel, you get this load window that pops up, and that's got all the things that I've hard coded in, which are basically the first 10 samples I did. There's several samples that Color has also inscribed, and then all the ones I've put them all together, all of Longstreet's ones, so that you can tell which ones, and I'm pretty sure they've all got their keys in the name, so that you know what key you're dealing with. But yeah, there's a lot to play with there. And again, the limits really at the moment is all just in the way I have, kind of haphazardly built this thing with an idea. So sometimes you just got to really, with what I've got, it's like create a sequence and then just save it. Just save every sequence, even if it's just your first kick. In fact, that's a way to do it, rather than building a whole sequence and using the mute buttons. Just build your kick drum into a sequence and then load it, and then now add your snare drum, and now you've got a second sequence that's the kick and the snare, and then use that load and use that load and save button. Use the save button to save that bass, and then save that kick and snare, and then save when the next instrument comes in, the next instrument, and then move to your fills. You could have 10, 20, 30 scenes that you can then hit play and just load those scenes one at a time on the fly while